Hello from Detroit, Michigan, to my Sacred Heart friends and family gathering in Vienna today. I must start by thanking you all for your support of our shared mission. Your presence here is witness to your commitment to the ideals that are central to Sacred Heart and to AMASC. A very special thank you to Maria Schoner and our European team that has made this Congress possible. I know how much hard work and endless hours it takes to plan an event like this. We are all forever grateful to you for your steadfast support and dedication. I am so very sorry that recent challenges have made it impossible for me to travel, and I am unable to meet you in person to share with you this most meaningful and joyous gathering. But I am honored to be here virtually and in spirit to celebrate our common bonds, our shared experiences, and our diversity. In 1965, I entered the parlor at the Convent of the Sacred Heart in Grosse Pointe, Michigan with my parents for the first time. As a 5-year-old, I could sense that there was something unique and important about that place, but I didn't know that it would be the beginning of a lifelong journey for me and that it would lead me to this day. I am sure many of you have had similar experiences when you first discovered that special connection to Sacred Heart. The past few years have given me an opportunity to learn more about the many limbs of our Sacred Heart family tree. It has been a gift to know and better understand the role we each play in our far-reaching mission that is as relevant today as it was in 1800. The melding of these distinct but intrinsically connected groups, the schools, the RSCJ, the alumni, and the associates, is fundamental to our success and growth as an organization. St. Madeleine Sophie said, "Our Lord has united our hearts by a bond that extends to all countries and knows how to draw us closer in Him and through Him." I believe that we as AMASC derive our strength from this bond and constancy of purpose. When I was introduced to Paola Del Prete, our past president and my dear friend, she asked me to consider heading the board for this mandate. I was both honored and also terrified. Having served on the U.S. board for several years, I was aware of the many challenges we face as an international and Catholic institution. Our world is changing at an accelerated pace, and the thought of navigating through these changes can become a daunting task. We are bombarded with information, saturating our minds and often desensitizing us to matters of the greatest importance. It seems that there is never enough time in a day to complete our tasks. All these things ran through my mind, and I wondered, how could I ever properly serve AMASC? Then I remembered the words of St. Madeleine Sophie. We must not be blind to the fact that in these times of activity in which we live, demands are made upon us and obstacles rise so that certain modifications and a certain perfectioning become indispensable. What an astute and insightful view of facing change and the turmoil that it often brings. In other words, we must evolve, advance, transform. Her words also reminded me that Sacred Heart was born in a time of turmoil, and that turmoil seems to have appeared throughout its history. Wars, plagues, civil unrest, religious persecution, poverty, famine, revolution, so many obstacles every step of the way. So I realize the difficulties at this moment are just another part of this journey that we share, and that we, as alumni, must do our part to ensure the future of Sacred Heart and its message. And here we are, together, moving forward. With these things in mind, and echoing Sophie's words, the theme for our mandate became One Heart, Moving Forward with Courage and Confidence. The following is a film we made with AASH that celebrates Sophie's enduring call for courage and confidence. One could say that the raging fire that hastened her birth foreshadowed the events that defined St. Madeleine Sophie Barra's life. Born 2 months early, on December 12, 1779, the frail infant survived and grew despite the turbulent and violent times that afflicted her country. By the time she was 10 years old, the Reign of Terror had begun. She had been born into a privileged family and had received an exceptional education from her brother Louis. By 1794, the French Revolution had taken power from the Catholic Church and brought about the suppression of Christian education. Sophie believed that rigorous education was necessary to advance society, particularly the education of women, whether poor or privileged. Troubled by the strict Jansenist rules of Catholicism, Sophie developed a deep spirituality in the Sacred Heart of Jesus. This became the foundation for her life's work and the form of education she originated. The Society of the Sacred Heart began on November 12, 1800. Sophie was 21 years old.
Je crois qu'il y a un parallèle entre le moment où Madeleine Sophie a décidé de créer le Sacré-Cœur, c'était la Révolution, il y avait le christianisme était rejeté par la population, il y avait des excès dans la jeunesse, ça s'appelait je ne sais plus comment ça s'appelait, enfin bon bref, il y avait des excès, et il y a beaucoup de points de comparaison, mais c'est toujours très difficile d'être un signe de contradiction sans avoir l'air d'être moral, de susciter la motivation sans avoir à dire on est bien. Il faut être malin, il faut être et moderne, mais le courage, il faut en avoir. Et parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'erreurs et savoir, comme je le disais peut-être aussi tout à l'heure, on ne réussira pas tout de suite. C'est pas grave, mais on fait ce qu'on peut, moi je dis toujours, et elle se charge du reste. Si ça marche, c'est très bien. Si ça ne marche pas, ça la regarde.
What I would say is that Madeleine Sophie has been very active in a horrible period in France. You know, that was La Terreur. And, you know, she managed to do something that we all remember now. So what I would say is that we cannot complain about the world, even if, you know, everything is quite difficult. Young people are different. But I think that these words should be interpreted in the light of what the times of Madeleine Sophie. And if she managed, why should this not be a message for us?
And I think perhaps for me a very important thing is that Madeleine Sophie education was for girls, and it was exceptional at the time because it was not only reading or homework, it was physics and geography and all these things. And I think we were brought up that we learned a lot, and that means that we have responsibility for the society.
Women and children must have some knowledge of current errors and form their own judgments in light of Christianity, in order to conform intelligently to the enlightened teaching of the Church.
She needed a lot of courage and confidence to do what she did. She went against the norms of her society by then. Educating women wasn't something easy. She had the chance to have that from her brother. She wanted to share it with others. So she needed to make the foundation of the Sacred Heart. She needed both courage and confidence. So as all her predecessors, that's why it's their theme. In all our lives, we need both, in different ways, in different times, different societies. We have different type of challenges, each of us, in each culture. It never ends because we constantly need both these principles to carry on. maybe it needs even more courage nowadays and more confidence, because you can find lots of echo in our societies, in all the societies now, with modernity and laicity, which has plenty of advantage, of course, but it makes it even harder to mention education through beliefs and religious beliefs. I still believe that when you educate, you give a small, you have a small grain, something inside your children. It may not show now, but one day it will. You have just to trust. I was given values that I love, that I can't not share with others, I mean.
The hour has come when we must give reason for our faith. Let our teachers be trained to reason that our pupils may learn to do so.
At a time during the French Revolution, translated, which were very similar themes during the French Revolution: courage, confidence, valor, all of these war cries that they would have heard from different segments of the French population, but then personalized them and spiritualized them into a way in which that same courage and confidence to fight physically could be what we could fight for radically through how we live our lives and how we go about our work and how we stand for and with children in particular. So I see how we can now take that also and keep passing that down from generation to generation to generation and say, for what should we be courageous for right now? And what confidence do we need in this moment?
In the struggle concerning education, the heart of Jesus asks from us not our blood, but our minds.
Philippine had confidence in the heart of Jesus to help her persevere in spreading the love of God in spite of setbacks, frustrations, and disappointments. Her courage during the French Revolution and on the American frontier flowed from her trust in God.
Let us never lose courage or despair of God's mercy. We have only to humble ourselves before God in order to obtain grace to become all that we ought to be.
I can only imagine what it was like for her in 1800 to say, I want to go to this unknown land. Jeez, you know, I don't know where I'm going really. I don't know what it's going to be like, but somehow God wants me there. And okay, I'm going to get up and go. I'm begging Madeline Sophie to let her go.
She has her mindset for something like at a goal or so. She goes for it. Like she doesn't second guess it. She just goes for it. And that I think that's what, in a way, shaped us as Josephina, in a way, because they help us, they push us. Like, if there's certain stuff that we want to do, they will make sure, like, we go in that path. She's one brave woman.
The fact that she got on that boat alone, as a fairly old woman for her time, to go to an unknown land, to do work she felt called to do but had no real view of what would happen. And to step into that boldly and confidently, that's what I want graduates of Sacred Heart to leave and do.
The jewels of Calvary are the cross, the thorns, and the binding cords. Have courage. Others have worn them before us and have seen them changed into treasures eternal and incomprehensible in value.
Of course, all of us grew so close to Philippine Duchenne, and we were all taught of her great sacrifices and her desire to serve the underserved, and how it didn't work for her so many times. So it all came back to me when the Sisters of Christian Charity asked if I would be interested in helping them with their school in the inner city that was about to close. Because of her, I took it on. I made sort of a pact with the dear Lord and said, well, if you'll lead me, I will go. And Philippine Duchenne had one hand in
the dear Lord in the other hand, and off we went.
How truly blessed we shall be if at the price of even very great sacrifices we shall have made God known and loved by one more soul. Janet Erskine Stewart wrote, "The Society of the Sacred Heart has been singularly blessed by God. In the littleness of its origin, in the providential assistances and trials through which it came into being, in its first rapid extension, it has been blessed in the persecution which has followed it through many countries, driving the native members from their homeland until all the world has become their country. It has been blessed in the faithful and devoted friendships which have never failed it, and even in the bitter and tenacious prejudices which have not been wanting from the beginning until our own day to keep it vigilant and awake. It has been blessed in the strokes of adversity which have come upon it, and in the almost visible interference of God, warding them off or carrying it through each trouble as it arose. It is blessed, most of all, in the special bond of unity which joins all the members together, so strongly that those who see it have declared that no human power could have welded so many diverse spirits and nationalities in one whole, and that without doubt, the finger of God is here."
And it was just after World War II. I mean, Budapest was blasted. We walked across the border into Austria, and we get to Austria, and my mother went knocking on the Sacred Heart door and said, "Could you help us?" It was very dangerous. Dangerous for the sisters and dangerous for us. So they said, "We have a cell, one of the nuns' cells available," and the three of us were there, and we really weren't allowed to mingle with anybody. We eventually came to America. I ended up getting involved. We had an AMASC in Genoa. And I took my plate and I said, "Do you speak English at this table? That's the only question." And yes. So I said, "Well, I went to school in Hungary," and she said, "Well, I went to school in Vienna." And so I said, "I have wonderful memories of how they helped us." And she said, "When were you there?" And I said, "Well, when were you there?" She said, 1,000,000 years ago. I said, "I was there 1,000,000 years ago." And so I told her my little story, and she said, "You were the ones we were praying for."
So when we were hidden and there was a baby, it was the end of the war almost. They couldn't eat, they had the coupon and it was not possible. And the poor nuns shared everything. The SS followed them and they came back home, and after a few moments the three SS entered and said, "There is somebody here who's hidden," and we follow them, and we must look at that. The Reverend Mother Saladini said, "Yes, you can look everywhere if you want," and we were a lot of family hidden there. She said, "But before we have to go to the church and pray together." So they went to the church, two youngs, and the captain. And the Reverend Mother started to pray in silence, and he started praying. All of them were praying. And this man started crying, and he said, he turned and said, "Let's go." This is amazing because it was the end of the war, so maybe he understood that everything was lost and didn't want to continue to do something against other people. And this, I think, it's a great experience and shows the faith of this religious. In a moment like that, everybody would be upset, and she thought about God. And this is great, I think.
Una figura molto importante nella nostra vita era Santa Maddalena Sofia Barà, a cui c'era un piccolo altare nella chiesa davanti a cui andavamo a pregare la mattina, prima dell'interrogazione, prima del compito in classe e ci ha sempre molto aiutato con le sue parole che ci dicevano sempre, ci insegnavano a conoscere. Coraggio e confidenza, per esempio, è praticamente un motto che ci accompagna ed è veramente, riassume tutto, perché per il coraggio che dobbiamo avere e soprattutto per l'insegnamento dell'abbandono alla volontà del Signore e alla fiducia, perché in italiano courage secondo me deve essere tradotto anche in fiducia. Fiducia, coraggio, fiducia nella sua opera, accompagnati dalla Santa Madre, perché noi la Santa Maddalena Sofia Barà in casa, al Sacro Cuore, la chiamavamo Santa Madre, non la chiamavamo Santa Maddalena Sofia Barà, no, semplicemente Santa Madre. E quindi il messaggio dell'abbandono, della fiducia al Signore con l'aiuto e con la mano della Santa Madre è stato sempre molto importante. Mi piace molto come tema. Quello che resta è proprio quello che noi abbiamo dentro per l'educazione che abbiamo avuto, per la ricchezza di quello che abbiamo avuto, di cui forse prima non ci rendevamo conto, ma di cui abbiamo un grande deposito dentro di noi ed è quello che dobbiamo trasmettere.
Alors je voudrais, oui, partager quelque chose de très personnel. C'est que le Sacré-Cœur m'a beaucoup aidé dans ma vie, parce que j'ai perdu mon papa quand j'étais en 5e primaire, donc j'avais 11 ans. Et à ce moment-là, c'est vrai que le Sacré-Cœur m'a aidé et m'a apporté le courage et la confiance pour continuer. Et je pense que sans cette aide-là, sans cette aide de mes professeurs, de mes enseignants, de la direction, de cette grande famille, je pense que la période la plus difficile de ma vie aurait été encore pire et encore plus horrible. Donc ça a permis d'apaiser les choses, même si cela est resté très très difficile. Mais voilà, je pense que le Sacré-Cœur est vraiment dans mon cœur, entre autres à cause de cela. Et ça, c'est sûr que ça a été quelque chose qui a activé encore plus l'envie maintenant d'être investi dans la AMASC et d'être professeur au Sacré-Cœur aussi. Je pense que c'est un fait tragique de ma vie, mais qui a fait que j'ai pris ça comme un tremplin de me dire, mais voilà, on m'a aidé, donc je veux faire la même chose pour d'autres enfants aujourd'hui.
Courage et confiance, c'est une formule qui a été très très présente dans ma vie. J'étais très malade en 2017 et 2018 et j'ai accepté la maladie avec une résignation et une foi dont je ne me sentais pas capable. C'est venu, je ne sais pas comment, et je me suis dit courage et confiance, courage et confiance, courage et confiance. Je n'étais pas révoltée, je n'étais pas en guerre, je n'étais pas fâchée, je n'étais pas... J'ai reçu la force, c'est une grâce du Seigneur, par la foi je pense, la force de me dire j'ai confiance en Dieu, j'ai confiance dans l'amour du cœur de Jésus et donc je vais avoir le courage que je dois avoir pour continuer le combat qui va me mener à la vie éternelle ou à la vie sur terre, mais de toute façon la vie et donc c'est bien.
St. Madeleine Sophie had the brilliant idea that nothing was so scary because she'd lived through the Great Terror in France, where the Jansenism was very, very concrete, very powerful. And her epiphany or her message was, God loves you, you don't have to be scared all the time. So that changed my whole psyche, having been in the Sacred Heart. Now, when I look back on it, how did they get that ethos or that kind of theory of education, or whatever you want to call it, culture? It was from her. It gave me confidence, I'd say, confidence. Confidence. But also a sense of charity.
We certainly needed confidence at Sacred Heart when we had oral exams and preems. I mean, if that didn't take courage, I don't know what did. Your knees would buckle and you had to stand up and give an answer in front of a Reverend Mother and hundreds of students at school. I mean, that takes courage. We were forced to have courage. Even if you didn't have confidence in your abilities, you had to overcome your lack of confidence and just turn to this confidence that you know, you really didn't have. But in the long run, after proving yourself by force, you ended up getting the courage and confidence that you didn't have to start with. We were told that God loves us no matter what, that the Sacred Heart was there for us at all times, and the Blessed Mother, that no matter what, we were told that you can do it, even when we couldn't sometimes. You've got to do it, just do it.
The higher we want to fly, the greater the risk, but that is the glorious part of it. The great uncertainties in which we trust God, that seems to me to be the essence of our life and its beauty.
My mother would have preferred that I would have done exactly what she would have liked and stop having a mind of my own. That was a problem. Even though my mind of my own never got me in trouble or brought any bad publicity or problems to the household. All right. My father was similar, an educator, but any hint of spirituality on my part was something he didn't like at all. You know, I paid my way through school, loans and work study and what have you. And so and as I said, Newton really encouraged and brought out the best in you, gave you that opportunity to have courage, to have confidence in yourself. And that's where I learned that. I never thought I would win in elections. You know, I didn't do those things in high school. But again, over time, even with the birth of my son, that brought out even more courage. And I really thought about a lot of my education at Newton was opening doors. Those doors were opened. You got to walk through them and see if it fit. Was there a fit there or not? And I used that. What I got at Newton was worth continuing to give. I don't want what I learned, what I had, what Newton brought to how it grew my heart to end with me. It should continue.
Those two character traits, maybe, have always been part of the Sacred Heart education. There's no embarrassment, there's no inequality, there's no, you were given the tools to go out and fight, whether it's fighting for yourself, fighting for someone else, to inequality in society in any sort of way, that you meet a Sacred Heart girl and she's not going to back down if there is injustice. To me, what the courage and confidence is something that they gave us as a gift, and so we need to continue espousing or encouraging or repeating that gift so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And the courage and the confidence that the RSCGA continue to show by going into places where they are not welcome, they are not wanted, women are not at equal stature, they are not important. Why should they be educated? Whereas, you know, for the sake of one child, every single person with breath in their body should learn how to read, should learn how to write, should learn how to be part of a society rather than a less than.
The interest of education never flags. Year after year, the material is new. The children come up from the nursery to the schoolroom with their life before them. Their unbounded possibilities for good, their confidence and expectant hopefulness as to what the future will bring them.
And that's the great thing about Sacred Heart education, whether it's in Nebraska or Uganda, is this whole sense that we don't study Philippine and Sophie like historical figures. They're not just saints on a pedestal. They're real people to us and real examples, and we take their virtue and their practices and we make them our own.
Each day, our students come to us from 46 different zip codes. You know, they themselves are pioneers. 75% are the first generation in their family to have the opportunity to attend college. And it's their example that I believe is what is most inspirational and is the key connection for the adult community of Josephinum. Because when you see the lengths that they're ready to go to, you can't help but be inspired and ask yourself, what are the margins or frontiers of my own growth? And how can I draw from their courage and confidence to have the same in my own life?
There is a wonderful happening that occurred in my life a couple of years ago. An award was established called the Barbara Henry Courage and Teaching Award. And I think that is so fantastic because I consider courage as the gateway quality of character that really allows for all the other, good qualities of character to evolve, but it really takes courage. And when I go to talk to children and students everywhere, for many of them, courage often has a masculine, strong, virulent kind of connotation, but I like to tell them that kindness is a ebb flows from courage, that sometimes, and many times, it takes courage to offer kindness to people who are different or in need. And so I, years ago, began stressing with students to whom I would speak the idea that kindness is really an outflow of courage. And without the courage, I like to write when I sign books, courage in your own life, kindness toward others.
This is why I think Sacred Heart education is so important in today's world. And I don't think it will ever not be important. It was born in the time after the French Revolution, when there was so much horror and terror and ugliness and crassness. And it was born out of that as a movement that was meant to help people realize that they're lovable and that they're inherently okay, and that that regardless of what happens in the exterior world, that does not determine your value or your worth or your lovableness. That there's a core inside of you that's just solid. And that was an aspect of Sacred Heart education. It's the mission of the Society of the Sacred Heart is to help people discover, i.e. know, the love of the heart of Christ, God's love.
I think St. Madeleine Sophie put an imprint on us about courage, and I think it has to do with the order being founded in the French Revolution. It was about, love of the Sacred Heart, and it was about, the church and the way the church was being disrespected in those times. It was also about change in society and how the role of women, particularly in changing society. Now today we would look at her theory and say, I've always thought, this will educate the women and the women will influence their husbands and their children. There's some truth to that. I don't know that I totally agree with it, but the idea was correct about change in society, and I think that that's part of the DNA of Sacred Heart. I think that is the courageous part of any one of us who went to Sacred Heart School were told, God has given you many gifts, and you're responsible for those gifts. What you receive isn't just for yourself. Well, that's why I think the charism of the society and the mission of the society is very important today because the world is so messy and so divided and so, you don't want to say unloving, but certainly it's not, love is not a real love, not cheap love, but real love is not a predominant characteristic of our society. And I think that if you look at Sacred Heart women through history, I think that that's what they've done in terms of taking their responsibility seriously, whether it's, you know, in terms of their profession or in terms of how they are with their family or how they've been involved in the church or how they've even been critical of the Society of the Sacred Heart. They're courageous women. And I think it goes with faith, community, critical thinking, and justice. I think all of those lines, that's what courage is about. Faith, critical thinking, community, justice. And I think that's our line. I think that's our line.
I think there are a few moments in education where the only way forward is to have courage and confidence. And I think certainly this time in Catholic education, it is hard some days to get up and to stand for things that are seemingly not talked about, not valued, not supported in the world. It's challenging to love people even when you disagree with them, when they don't look like you, when they don't come from the same place you come from. What courage you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I need to be more in this moment. I think educators are faced with so many challenges right now, from how to work with children of diverse needs and backgrounds and intellects, to parents who come from diverse skill sets, from really challenging and stressful situations, and different communities that may or may not have the resources or the supports that they need. So a teacher approaches their vocation now, and the only way they can do it is to have confidence that they've got something to offer and share that will make the world a better place through their relationship with children. And then specifically in the network, we are a school system of independent schools that have to, before we are independent, be Catholic and stand for these gospel values, and more importantly, carry forward the vision of Madeline Sophie. And the vision of Madeline Sophie is to educate children in a profoundly personal way. And it means often that we have to stand for and be about things that call us out of complacency. And so I think courage and confidence is underlying every choice we make to actually continue the mission and to stand for the vision of Madeline Sophie and to carry it forward into a time and into the world where I think it's needed more than ever. In 2023, as we're faced with so many challenges globally, domestically, even within the network, what we teach, what our curriculum should look like, who we should open our doors for. I think if we start from a place which reminds us that it's going to be hard and you need courage, and that you're going to feel weak and you need to feel confident, we find it together. We have a responsibility to keep saying it and to not only use our words to say it, but to speak loudly with the choices we make to support the schools that we serve and the network that is holding us all together.
Each time I interview members of our Sacred Heart family, I am amazed by the clear and deeply rooted commonalities. Regardless of our location or language, we share a history in one heart. However, we remain individuals with unique perspectives. Mother Stewart describes it with these words: "There is a deep down unity, but there is no forced uniformity. The Spirit is one, but its manifestations are many. No one is made to order of this or that shape, but each gives what she can for the common good. The common good demanding, for its own sake, as well as for hers, that she should remain herself." She also describes how each of us has a specific role to play this way. We must remember that each one of our children is destined for a mission in life. Neither we nor they can know what it is, but we must know and make them believe that each one has a mission in life and that she is bound to find out what it is. That there is some special work for God which will remain undone unless she does it. Some place in life which no one else can fill. I hope that each of us continues to seek that special work that only we are capable of fulfilling, and that we all find ways to continue to carry on the vision of Sophie and the values that we learned as students of the Sacred Heart. We must support our religious who are facing serious challenges as they are actively carrying on the mission around the world, and we must assume our share of the responsibility to do so. Let us open our awareness of that which is needed and ignite our purpose in the ongoing challenges in our world today. There are hundreds of thousands of us in the world, and we have a powerful voice to make a difference. Our founding mothers have given us this charge, and they have given us the tools we need to succeed. AMASC is diligently working and is committed to find ways to enable all of us to move forward with courage and confidence. Our predecessors' words are our guide. Mother Stewart encourages us. Life faces you with courageous challenges at every step. You are on the path exactly where you are meant to be right now, and from here you can only go forward, shaping your life story into a magnificent tale of triumph, of healing, of courage, of beauty, of wisdom, of power, of dignity, of love. And Sophie reminds us, Jesus will supply for all that we lack if our confidence in his help is without limit.